The supermarket in Birmingham was quiet that afternoon, sunlight pouring through the large glass windows and glinting off the polished floor.
Shelves were neatly stacked. The hum of refrigerators filled the air, and everything looked normal. Almost too normal for what was about to unfold.
Near the dairy aisle stood two small children, a brother and sister, who seemed out of place amid the comfort and cleanliness of the store.
Their clothes were torn, their shoes worn out, their hair a little messy, and their faces held a look that only life's cruel lessons could carve into such young souls. The little girl clutched a gallon of milk to her chest like it was treasure, and her older brother stood beside her, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder. They weren't lost, just waiting, hesitating, staring at the milk in her arms as if deciding whether to keep it or put it back. They were orphans, too proud to beg but too hungry to survive without help. The boy's name was David, about 7 years old, small but standing with the stubbornness of a protector. His sister Laura was 5, quiet, blue-eyed, holding the milk like it was her mother's last request. Their parents had died in a car accident a year ago. Since then, the two had been shuffled from one temporary home to another. They found themselves living in a dilapidated mobile home behind a disused service station on the outskirts of Sunderland. Most nights, they survived on little more than canned beans and bread. But today, Laura was sick. She'd been coughing all night, her lips pale. David knew milk was the one thing that could help her feel better. He had walked her to the store, holding her hand tightly, promising her they would somehow bring it home. They had no money, only courage. Before we go deeper into this powerful story, if you believe in the transformative power of kindness, if you believe that true compassion can be found in the most unexpected hearts, then please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Third Person View, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that goodness exists everywhere.
Your support helps us spread stories that shed light on human connection.
As they stood near the aisle, debating what to do, 3 men entered from the far end, rough-looking, broad-shouldered, their leather vests carrying the Hells Angels emblem. Their presence made people instinctively move aside.
The sound of their boots echoed down the aisle. One of them, Edward, walked a little ahead, tattoos winding down his arms, a black bandana tied around his head.
Behind him were Stephen and Brian, both built like the kind of men you wouldn't want to cross. Most shoppers looked away, but David didn't. He stood his ground, clutching Laura's hand as the bikers approached.
Edward stopped when he noticed the 2 children blocking part of the aisle, his brow furrowed, not in anger, but in curiosity. He crouched down so his eyes were level with theirs. The girl looked scared. The boy didn't flinch. The biker's voice came out rough, but calm as gravel. "Hey, kid, are you lost?" David shook his head. He swallowed hard, his voice trembling as he spoke. "No, but we don't have money for this milk. My sister's sick. Can you pay for it? I promise we'll return the money when we grow up." The biker didn't respond right away. Behind him, his friends exchanged silent glances. For a moment, the hum of the coolers filled the heavy air. Edward looked at the milk, then at the boy's small, steady eyes. Something in that moment broke through his hard exterior. A flash of memory, perhaps, of his own childhood, hungry and scared, before life turned him into the man he became. He nodded slowly, still crouched, and said quietly, "What's your name, kid?" "David," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Edward stood, still looking at the 2 children.
Without another word, he took the milk gently from Laura's hands and turned toward the counter.
The other two bikers followed him, pulling out cash from their pockets. Edward paid for the milk, but not just that. He told the cashier to bag a few more things: bread, fruit, some canned soup, cereal, and a small box of cookies. When he came back, he handed the bag to David. The boy's eyes widened, his lips trembling, as if he wanted to say something, but couldn't find the words. Laura held the milk tighter. Edward placed a hand on David's shoulder and said softly, "You don't owe me anything. Just grow up good. That's how you pay me back."
The children stared at him, silent, confused by the kindness. David managed to nod, whispering, "We will."
The three bikers turned and began walking away, but something about that little boy's courage stayed with them. They didn't leave the parking lot right away.
Instead, they watched as the two small figures walked down the sidewalk, the boy carrying the bag, the girl holding her milk, disappearing toward the outskirts of Sunderland.
Days passed, weeks, but that moment wouldn't leave Edward's mind. He had seen many things in his life: fights, betrayal, regret.
But never a child standing so proud in the face of need. One afternoon, he rode his Harley back to that same supermarket in Birmingham and asked the clerk about the kids. The clerk mentioned he'd seen them a few times, always quiet, sometimes coming in late, sometimes just standing by the shelves, never stealing, just looking.
Edward asked where they lived, and the clerk pointed him toward the disused service station at the edge of town.
When Edward and his crew arrived there, they saw the truth. The mobile home was falling apart, corrosion eating through the metal, a broken window covered by plastic. The boy was outside trying to fix a leak using an old bucket. The girl sat on a small wooden crate, coughing softly but smiling when she saw the bikes pull up. Edward walked closer, his boots crunching over gravel. David looked up, startled but not scared.
"We said we'll pay you back," the boy stammered. "We're saving up bottles."
Edward shook his head, holding up his hand. "I didn't come for that," he said. He looked around at the cracked door, the empty yard, the tired children. Then he looked back at his brothers. "We're fixing this place." Over the next few days, the roar of Harley engines became the sound of hope. The bikers cleaned the yard, repaired the roof, replaced the windows, and brought food.
Stephen, who had once worked construction, patched the leaks. Brian painted the walls.
Edward found a social worker who helped enroll the kids in a local community program, one that offered meals and schooling. What had started as a single act of compassion in a supermarket turned into something far greater, a promise kept in reverse. When it was all done, Laura ran up to Edward and hugged his leg tightly. David stood beside her, holding a small envelope with a few crumpled coins and bills, their savings. "We still owe you," he said with a shy smile. Edward knelt again, taking the envelope gently from his hand, then tucked it into the boy's shirt pocket. "Keep it," he said. "Use it when someone else needs help. That's how you pay me back." As the bikers rode off into the fading light, the sound of their engines blended with the laughter of the children, echoing through the quiet evening air. And though the world outside kept moving, as always, for one small corner of it, that disused service station, that dilapidated mobile home, and those two little hearts, everything had changed forever.
Because sometimes kindness doesn't just buy a jug of milk. It buys back someone's faith in humanity.
If this story moved you deeply, if it showed you that humanity's best face can emerge from surprising places, then you understand that compassion has no uniform, and that one act of kindness can spark a chain of hope.
Please like this video, subscribe to Third Person View, and share it with someone who needs to believe in the surprising strength of human connection.
Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind us of our collective humanity.
Before we close, I want to ask you, what do you think prompted Edward, with his hardened exterior, to not only pay for the milk, but to commit to fixing their entire lives?
Was it memory, empathy, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read them all.